From the studios of KENW on the campus of Eastern New Mexico University, it's You Should Know, featuring the people and events of Eastern New Mexico and West Texas.
Welcome to You Should Know. I'm your host, Evelyn Ledbetter, and my guests today are Kenda Trollinger. She is the president-elect of the Clovis Chamber of Commerce. She has a lot of titles here, so she's also a licensed bachelor social worker and the business development specialist with Interim Healthcare. Yes. And together with Kenda, I have Sherri Wilson, and she is the president of the Clovis Chamber of Commerce and also the owner of Genius Al.
Yes.
So ladies, thanks for joining me this morning.
Absolutely.
Now that we got past all the titles, right? So give me a little bit of background about yourself. Kenda, let's start with you. Just tell me a little bit about your world and what you do.
Okay, I grew up in Clovis, New Mexico. I'm born and raised there, so I'm an original. And have done a lot of things in my life. I've done softball my whole life, volleyball my whole life. Actually in the Hall of Fame of New Mexico with softball.
That's so cool.
I do work for the healthcare facilities. I've been in healthcare for my whole, and that's where I met you.
That's how we met, was working.
I met you there, and I am working currently at Interim Home Healthcare.
Very nice. And looking forward to your next stint of being the chamber president in a year.
Yeah, I've got a good mentor here, so we'll get it done.
That's important.
Yeah.
And Sherri, tell me a little bit about you.
Well, I'm not a native. I moved to Clovis in 1989. My dad moved me from Childress because I was being a stinker. And fell in love with Clovis. My family is from this area. They've been here for decades, I think from the 60s. And I've been a serial entrepreneur since 1998. And started the first female-owned computer tech business where I taught people how to use their computers. And
Wow.
And that was unusual because most people did hardware only.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started Genius Al in 2016. So I love digital marketing, so we kind of have that in common. True crime also in common. And then I do life and business coaching.
How cool is that? And always been self-employed?
Yes, pretty much. I've had 2 jobs. My first one was Clovis High Schools with Mrs. Luck in the special ed department when I was a senior. And then I worked for Diamonds Evermore for a little bit.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Well, both of you ladies are, and it's always, it's great to have you here. But
Thank
we're
you.
actually going to talk about the Clovis music scene, which has been going on since the 50s.
Yeah.
Right.
Or maybe even earlier, but we have some record of that. And so, there have been a lot of people that have actually, back in the 50s, that recorded in Clovis. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of how the recognition of Clovis being the hub started?
Yes.
Was being that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's been a lot of recording. And Kenda, you have some history with this. I'm going to let you talk on this with Ann Linville and her connections to Buddy Holly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I grew up with her child. Her child was one of my best friends. Her name was Leanne. And Ann Linville was married to Bob Linville, or Robert Linville, which was a backup singer for Buddy Holly with the Roses. So had a lot of good times. We were talking about the music festival today, but I had a lot of good times at their house getting ready for the music festivals because she created this space for them to practice in her house. And it was like a black and white soda shop kind of thing back in her garage. And then we'd had the garage jams with the fireballs, the Crickets, anybody that was back up for Buddy Holly. But yeah, he was one of the original Roses. And then the other Rose, David Bigham, died not too long ago. Mm. And he was also in Clovis forever. But really good friends, and that's when I fell in love with the 50s.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. Everybody thinks garage bands are new, but
this is old stuff.
When you knew Ann, rock and roll, that was the heyday.
I always look forward to going to her house right before the music festival because nobody got that special time to watch them practice and get ready for the music festival. It was really great.
Yeah.
How cool is that? And you told a story I'd love for you to share about your mom.
Oh, well, my mom was a teenager, and she also was in town, and she was with 3 of her college friends, and they were singers at the church. And so basically she wanted to do a record for her dad, which my granddad. And so she went to the studio to do that. And when she was walking in the studio, Buddy Knox and Buddy Holly were walking out, and they kind of got into a conversation. And they started talking, and Buddy Knox asked her who she was recording for, and my mom kind of freaked out and said, "Well, my dad." And so they thought it was her agent or a producer or something like that. So that was a funny story.
Or they thought that was the band was my dad.
Yeah, my dad.
As opposed to Uncle Cracker, it was my dad, right?
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah, and basically they just wanted one little record for my granddad. But,
isn't that cool, though? I mean, that history of saying, wow, I shook hands and met Buddy Holly. How many people can say that?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
And I actually knew Peggy Sue, the song.
The song.
Yeah. The lady that it is about lived in Lubbock for a long time. And she used to come down to the garage bands and sit with me and talk with me while they were practicing their bands.
And of course, that was a big one of the really big early hits of Buddy Holly.
Yeah. So Peggy Sue is a really icon.
How cool is that? And Sherri, do you know of people that have recorded in the Clovis area?
Well, of course, Waylon Jennings, Roy Orbison, Leanne Rhymes, several. But when I was looking back at the history of Clovis and the Clovis sound, there was a producer. He worked with the Beatles, and he was talking about Mr. Petty's work, and said that he was probably one of the most influential when it came to pop and rock in the United States. And he influenced like the Rolling Stones. You know, they attribute some of that to them. So we are well known, and we were the only recording studio in this part of the country other than going on to LA. And we were unique in what we brought.
Isn't that interesting? And we know that there's probably a lot of names that recorded in this area but have been lost through time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think Johnny Mulhare is a local who has been very instrumental on, I know he's worked with Will Bannister and who knows who all else, but just a tremendous producer. And did some great work.
Yeah.
It was kind of nice, you know, when they would come to record, like Leanne Rhymes, she would go to our mall and shop and do those kind of things, and people would actually get a little bit of Hollywood right there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool.
I guess the same as where other towns where Santa Fe's had TV shows or movies, and the same with other, you bump into them.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
It is fun.
That's fun.
Yeah.
And of course, I know there used to be a lot more places to dance in Clovis. So when I was young and out and about, you know, there was a lot of places to go. So just an era that was really neat. So also, let's go ahead and dig in. We have a lot of things on the table of prior music festival, but I don't know which of you would like to talk about it. But the dates that the music festival started, and then kind of how it grew over the years.
You want me to?
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
So Mrs. Petty started it in 1987 in honor of her husband. And when it first started, it was celebrating the 1950s and 60s sound. And, you know, obviously tribute bands would play, you know, frequently. And it lasted until 2002. And then it went on a little bit of a hiatus. And I've got it here in my notes. It was 2005 when we revived it. And at that time, we would typically have a gospel night, and then we would have the 1950s, 60s tribute bands, and then typically rock and roll. And that's kind of where you know, because Clovis rocks, right? And so that's what I remember most. But yeah, the Clovis Chamber has been greatly involved in revitalizing it and bringing it back and it evolving over the years.
It's hard to believe that it originated in 87, so 38 years ago.
Yes.
And then again, it's been back for, since 2002, so 23 years?
Well, 2005.
Okay.
Yeah, so 20 years.
20 years back again.
Yeah.
And there's some really cool different bands, and I remember it being like Clint Black, which is more country, and different ones that were much more of the country.
Doug Stone was here.
Right. And the openers and people like that.
And Kip Moore and Mickey and the Motor Cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the ones then when you got more current, Kenda, you and I went to see Loverboy when they played, and if people remember that album that had the red leather pants with the fingers crossed on the back.
Right.
And I got one of the original band members to actually sign that, so I guess I was a bit of a groupie.
Yeah.
I saw them as well, and like we were talking earlier, it was shocking because you don't expect to see your bands from back in the day. You know,
Want them to.
They progress, right?
They age too.
Yes, yes, except for Kip Winger.
Yeah.
He's maintained.
Yeah.
He's maintained.
Are you still crushing? Are you a
Yes.
groupie?
Yeah. But I got to see them with Firehouse, and it was neat seeing some of the guitarists, in several other bands that I grew up with, there with Winger. It was really, really neat. And he's also a classical composer. So it's neat because musicians, you got to be careful putting them in boxes because they love music, and that's why they do it. And we love music, so that's why we like to have the festival.
Right.
So when it went away, I'm going to guess that the funding was a big piece
Well,
of that, or you just had to
maybe,
come up
I
with
don't
sponsors
know,
and things.
but yeah, part of it too was, as the years went by, we lost a lot of the generation that they grew up on that music. And so I think part of it was, okay, how are we going to get this back on? And so we do work with a lot of sponsors, and we love them so much. They invest in the festival and the community all the time. They're not just the festival.
Right.
So yes, we have a lot of sponsors that help us out.
And we won't name them, but of course you're probably always more than willing to have a sponsor.
Oh,
come-
100%.
You won't turn down money. will you?
100%. And the city also contributes heavily to help us as well with lodger's tax. So we're always appreciative of that.
When it started back in 2005, you said the chamber is the one that
The chamber and passionate businesses and individuals that wanted to bring it back.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell me a little bit about the selection process because you're both on this committee, right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
through the chamber. So when you go to decide who you're going to try to come in, what do you base that on?
Basically, what we do is get a budget first. We got to
Mhm.
figure out what our budget's going to be, and we try not to exceed that so that we can put the best bands out there and get the best bang for our buck, basically. And then we put the committee to task to try to find the right artist for the right amount of money, of
Yeah.
course.
I'm going to guess that the minute this year's is over, you're already looking to see what was good and bad and
Mhm.
planning for the very next year.
We usually take a breather and then we get, back on it. But we work closely with Casey at Curry County Event Center.
Yes.
We usually have a list. We know what our budget is, and we just start thinking, okay, what would bring, what would bring people to the festival?
Mhm.
And we always want to have rock and roll because we are known for that.
Yeah.
But we do have a large community for country music in that genre. So
And gospel, too.
Yes.
If we could bring that.
if we can get
Well,
that,
and I remember one year there was the Pink Floyd light show,
love
which
that.
which you would think I think you said they contacted you, Kenda, or reached
Well,
out.
KC actually,
Casey's the one that found it. And
yeah.
he says, why don't we add this to the venue?
Mhm.
And we're like, really? And then we all thought about it and said, well, why not? And so we tried it, and it was one of the biggest nights.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
It's hard.
3D glasses and,
Yeah.
and the music, and it was absolutely
Well, and
wonderful.
of course, you're playing the songs from
From Pink Floyd.
right,
Yeah.
and it's the original track, so the music is awesome.
Yeah.
And then
And
of
the
course,
laser light show was amazing.
Yeah.
of course you go back to some of the album covers with the rainbow and the diamond, and
Oh,
I mean
yeah, it was
that's
great.
just so much in your mind, and
Yeah.
so that's so you didn't expect it, but that was a nice add-on.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
Yeah, we just never know what's going to be added on.
Mm-hmm.
If the opportunity presents itself, and
Yeah.
We put them on.
and so again, if there's people out there that might have something unique, they're definitely welcome to reach out to you.
Absolutely.
Kind of like
yeah.
Los Hurricanes.
Right.
Yeah.
It was their 50th anniversary.
Mm.
I think they were last year or the year before.
Uh,
Anyway, they were
year
within a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was their 50th anniversary, and they're local. So why
Yeah.
not bring them and celebrate them? So
Yeah.
we did that as well.
I think that was the year that 38 Special played.
Yes.
If I remember,
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe.
No,
no,
Uncle Cracker and
It was
Eli
Uncle
Young.
Cracker
It's
and
this
Eli
one, yeah.
Young. Yeah.
Okay.
They were with them. So I think that was 2023.
Oh, that's another.
Yeah. And what was neat about it is our chairwoman, Robin Snowberger, she knows them. A lot of their kids would work at
Right.
McDonald's. And so she contacted them, and they were so gracious to come and do that.
Well, my son graduated with one of the members that's in the band now. Of course, Pepe was a little guy, but now he's right in with
Yeah.
them. And I went to see him a couple of years ago in Ruidoso.
Yeah.
And is this guitar? Who are the signatures on this?
Well, that's
Do
a
you know?
little bit of a
Oh,
mystery.
I thought it maybe
we
was Los
thought it was
Hurricanes.
Los Hurricanes, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was a different color turquoise guitar.
Yeah.
We have them signed in the green room every year.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it since I started the green
Yeah,
room.
I'm not sure. We've got Johnny Roper on here. So I don't know for sure, and I don't want to say it was when I'm not positive.
It's kind of like their doctor signatures. You can't always read them,
Read
but
'em.
Yeah.
you'd have to pull it up and see if you could find a signature
Exactly.
somewhere and be able to. But where is this guitar at
It's from
usually?
the chamber,
Okay.
yes, in our museum, which is under renovations. We were hoping to be open last year, and it's looking like it's going to be this year. But a lot of our guitars are there. We have some in the hallway as you go to the back to the elevator as well that have been signed. But yeah, we're working on that studio to bring it back and make it an active recording studio.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell us about the headliners that will be for this year's show and talk about the dates and maybe pricing on that.
Okay. You want me to, or you?
Go ahead.
And this
Yeah.
is actually, we have,
It's-
Yeah,
we
it's
have
this
the
one right
poster
here.
here.
We're super, super excited this year because we're going to have the Marshall Tucker Band. So Can't You See?
Right.
And then I heard it in a love song. So they're coming. We're very excited about them. They're going to be opened by Roger Klein and the Peacemakers, and they're a little bit of like a Bruce Springsteen maybe feel, rock in Arizona type situation there. And they're going to be opened by a local band. Well, not opened. The local band's going to be the pre-party at 5:30, and it's Say When. So we have the 4 students that are attending, right?
Right, and they're ENMU students, and this is really cool. So just a shout out to them. I'm anxious to see them, Roman Galvan and Isaiah Duty and Zach Morris, which is Mayor Morris's son, and Juan Diaz. So that's really
Right.
cool, a connection
The
back.
4
That music from
students,
this area
Yep.
keeps coming
Yeah.
back.
So they're very excited. We got to sign a contract with them. It's like their first big deal. So it was really, really neat. You can see the video on the socials for Clovis Music Festival. And then
that's Friday night, right?
Yeah, that's Friday night.
What time do the gates
So,
open?
Well, they start playing at 5:30, so I'm assuming.
That's when they're going to open the doors.
Okay.
Likely, yeah.
And then Saturday, my night.
Your night. And you're rocking the T-shirt from the music festival from last year.
From last year. So we're going to have Saliva. They're hard rock, so they're known for like Click Click Boom, My Disease. They have a new local or a new lead singer, love his voice, and they're opening for Everclear. So that's the big '90s band. Santa Monica was a really big song for them. And then the pre-party band is one of my local favorites. It's Brandon Oliver and Company.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very talented. He has a new video out on YouTube, and it's on our socials as well. So they'll do the pre-party for Saturday night.
And the dates on this? I don't know.
April 11th and 12th.
So coming up pretty quick.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And people can get their tickets at clovismusicfestival.com.
Okay.
$39.50 for general, and then $46.50 for reserved. So the reserved will be down closer to the band, and then we'll have an area where everybody can dance.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah.
And I believe alcohol will be available, of course.
Plenty of alcohol. Yes.
Yeah, plenty of alcohol.
So our Uber drivers and cab drivers
have a designated driver.
Right,
Yeah.
do that. But of course, armbands and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's for everyone. It's not just for the reserved area.
Anyone that wants to come, and then anyone that wants to drink that are of age, they are more than welcome. It's not just for the reserved.
Okay.
Yeah.
So get those tickets, and I know there's posters around town, and there's probably a QR. Is there a QR? There is a QR
There is
code.
a QR code. And then we're going to have the trailer at our street dance that Saturday.
So tell me about this, the street
Yeah,
dance.
this is
Super
great.
excited. So as a president, it was very important for me to bring more local in.
Mhm.
And so I've been working with Trace Morgan. He's the lead singer of Rooster, and then Kayla Adair. And we have been working on the street dance that will be 11 to 4 Saturday, April 12th. And we're going to have
on Main Street?
Yep. From Grand to 9th, and we're going to have local bands playing up and down the street. And then Bakersfield Twang will be the main dance band from 2 to 4. And so we'll have the trailer there, and people can purchase their tickets using the QR code that will be on the trailer for Saturday's concert.
Oh, and I think you said that there will be a discounted
We're
price
working
if
on
you
a
go to the
discount.
street dance.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So if you go to the street dance, that's the only way you'd be able to buy those discounted tickets.
And we wanted to have it before Friday, but with Friday being a work day,
Right.
we figured we
No,
wouldn't be
you're
able
not
to do
gonna
it.
bring
So,
anybody out
and it's
on
going to be a family event. We're going to have the choir. It's either part of the choir or all of the choir from the high school do the national anthem. We're hoping to get some of the school bands involved as well. So, and we want to do a costume contest. So we've not had the street dance since 1994. So we don't know what's going to happen.
That's
we don't
true.
know if it's going to be like crickets and we're just walking around, or if it's going to be, big food trucks. Lisa with Main Street is working on that.
People love those, if nothing else.
Yep, she's working on getting those done. But we want the local sound to be involved, and we know it's important for the community. So,
well, we have something here in Portales, Uncle Mike's, and it gives a stage for entertainers that are on their way trying to work and get into that.
Yeah,
and so it's really cool to bring that whole music back into this area and to continue on with you, and then some growth here in Portales.
And one of the things that we developed last year or the year before was Clovis Takes the Stage. And so Clovis Takes the Stage is all the local artists and where they're going to be, like Bandolero or any kind of breweries or anything like that.
And I usually get content.
Yeah, so she's the one that gets contents from it and all that, but it's kind of nice to know where our local bands are playing, like K-Bob's or wherever. And
Red Door.
if you want to know, then you can get to that website, Clovis Takes the Stage, and you'll know exactly where their local artists are.
Yeah. We're down to about 5 minutes, but I still want to hit on Dragging Maine.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, I love Dragon Maine.
Yeah.
So I'm on the Dragon Maine committee. I do their marketing and their Facebook and all that. And so Dragon Maine, we're hoping some of the hot rods will make a show actually at the street dance. I will have my.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I'll have my 1970 Chevelle there.
Yeah.
We're having a hangout this weekend, so I'm excited. But Dragon Maine is June 8th through the 14th, and we're going to kick it off with our Sunday Fun Day, which is a family event. Little critters get to come and color and have some fun things.
Critters, also known as children.
Yes. My dad always called me a little critter. And then we'll have the classic drive-in tours as usual. And then our Friday block party, which is a huge hit. We got rained out last year. We're hoping this year will be better. But that's where you get to see the high-end hot rods.
And we know when you have cars of that stature, they're not going to stay when the rain clouds show up.
No, they left. And then
they're polished. They're ready to be.
But you know what was interesting is last year, our very first classic drive-in tour at Foxy's, it was raining, and it was raining off and on, and people still showed up because Dragon Mainers, they're hardcore.
Right.
And then, of course, we have our Gearhead Gathering that Saturday, and then we finish off with the big cruise.
Yeah. But my husband owns a '69 Camaro, and he always makes a show.
Does he want to race?
Yeah, we should do it down Main Street sometime.
Right. And that actually originated, I remember when I was a kid, that was the path that kids on Friday, Saturday night
I used to do that all the time.
Just made that loop. And, and just was the way to, before social media and cell phones, that was a way to interact and engage.
We'd pull over, visit, and then get back in the cars.
Or we do unique things like put a tarp in the back of a truck and fill it with water and have a swimming pool going down Maine, or hydrants squirting at each other. It's a lot of fun.
So the Dragging Maine kind of came to be.
Oh, it was hilarious. Brian Boone and Gene Porter, they remembered Dragon Maine. They're like, why don't we do that again?
Yeah.
So they put out the word. They didn't think it was going to be a big deal. And so many people showed up, they couldn't even drag Maine.
Right.
So when they did it, was it the younger people that
it was just a lot of their age and young people
that have
showed
those
up.
classic cars.
Yeah, and some of the the younger people, they have their hot rods now too. It may not be what ours were, but they couldn't believe it. They couldn't even get on Maine.
Get on Maine.
And so the rest was history.
Choco Box.
Yeah, they just built from there.
And I know that it was kind of divided just because they did the music festival and the Dragging Maine
We did that for
together.
a while.
So to split it so that you didn't take away from each other.
Yeah, a lot of people that would want to go to Dragon Maine, they also wanted to attend the conference and vice versa. So, we decided to go ahead.
No sense pulling from each other when they can be their own separate events.
And we can have several events throughout the year that way.
And we like to support each other.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
For sure. And just like really brief, the museum that's in the chamber, which is on Grand Street, correct? It's the chamber's open, but the museum is
still under construction.
Okay. Yeah. And then also there's exciting news that there's a new studio being built.
We're going to restore the analog studio, and it's going to be a live recording studio for artists because they want it. We'll be one of the few. There's only several in the world.
They want a pure sound like the old 50s group. And so much of these artists are wanting that instead of the digital.
Instead of it being so perfect.
Yep.
To go back. So
it's a big deal.
It's going to be a big deal, and we're going to see different artists around our town, I bet.
Yeah.
So be watching for when that comes about.
Yeah.
Look in the mall. You might see another Leanne Rhymes or somebody.
Just trolling through and things like that.
Yeah.
This has been really fascinating and a lot of good information. So again, the music festival April
11th and 12th.
And
Yeah.
we'll get some information. You know, I'm sure you can go to the chamber website and things like
Well,
that.
clovismusicfestival.com
Okay,
is the
way to
best
find
way.
that.
Right.
And the way to find the Dragging Main information?
DragonMain.org.
Okay, so those are
Yep.
pretty easy.
And our
and,
socials.
and of course, you could always call the Clovis Chamber as well.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
and
they'll
get
direct
information.
you to the right areas.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, great, ladies. Thanks so much for being
Absolutely.
here
Thank
today.
you for having us.
Always
Yes.
fun. Always fun to
Yes.
walk down memory road.
Yeah.
A lot of memories.
And for all of you watching, thank you. We look forward to seeing you next time. Cheers.